Okay, I call the meeting to order. Yes, you please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening for the regular meeting of the Town Board. We have approval of minutes, November 1st, work session special meeting, November 4th, special meeting, November 8th, regular meeting, November 16th, special meeting, November 22nd, special meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes? Is there a second? Discussion, roll call?
Ms. Lund? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Unveiling?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment, agenda items. Anyone wish to speak on any item on the agenda? Okay, hearing no one. The first item we have is the Mailer Avenue traffic study and report that the board received and we reviewed last week. The engineer was here and commented on the report. I think there were a couple of residents from Mailer Avenue who were in attendance. And I think bottom line, they had some recommendations. They indicated based on a normal speed study that speed limit lower than 30 miles per hour was not warranted. They did lay out a couple of possible improvements that could be made with signage. They talked about requesting permission to designate the school zone on Mailer Avenue for the Lee Road School that goes into the Lee Road area. And a couple of residents mentioned afterwards that they would like to submit questions, comments for the engineer. And I haven't received any, but as soon as I do, the board's in agreement, I'll just forward it to the engineer so that we can get a response from them. So you'll have to wait till the end of the meeting now. But you can ask your question then, please. Okay, so nothing further than we'll get some questions. The board's going to have to look at the recommendations that were made and decide how they want to approach the improvements or changes. Next is the resolution of certiorari settlement with Trotter, Howard, and Deborah Trotter. Whereas challenges have been filed by the property owner below challenging real property tax assessments on the town's assessment roll with respect to the following parcels. Property owner Howard and Deborah Trotter, 53 Weeks Avenue, tax ID 106-3-25-1 or .1, years 20-21. Whereas petitioner court challenges are now pending in the state Supreme Court and the county, whereas the town and the property owner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution, and therefore be it resolved, special counsel of the town is authorized to execute a settlement on behalf of the town for assessments no less than the following. The year 2020, original assessment $278,500, reduced amount $216,000, assessment reduction $62,500. 2021, original assessment $278,500, reduced assessment $278,500, and zero assessment reduction. Is there a motion to approve the settlement? Is there a second? Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Lund? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Unveiling?
Yes, motion is carried. Next is another certiorari settlement. Whereas challenges have been filed by the property owner below challenging real property tax assessments on the town's assessment roll with respect to the following parcels. Property owner Stone Hollow at Cornwall LLC. Address, description, Knoll Crest Court, tax IDs 14-1-13 through 43. Years 2016 to 2020. Whereas petitioners court challenges are now pending in Supreme Court, Orange County, and whereas the town and the property owner reached a mutually agreeable resolution, therefore be it resolved, the special counsel of the town is authorized to execute a settlement on behalf of the town for assessments for no less than the following. Lots 13-40 through 41 discontinued for all years at issue. Lots 42 and 43 total. Year 2016, original assessment $39,564, reduced assessment $1,000, assessment reduction $38,564. 2017, Original assessment $35,600, reduced assessment $1,000, assessment reduction $34,600. 2018, original assessment $35,600, reduced assessment $1,000, assessment reduction $34,600. 2019, $35,600 is the original assessment, reduced assessment is $1,000, assessment reduction $34,600. 2020, original assessment $18,600, reduced assessment $1,000, assessment reduction $17,600. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, the motion is carried. Next, I have a resolution pertaining to real-term energy, an agreement the town is looking to enter into for the town purchasing all of the streetlights. There's almost 500 streetlights throughout the town. Central Hudson has replaced, I think, a little over half with LED lights, and they have a program that's ongoing. But with real term, we enter into this agreement. They're going to do an audit of all the streetlights at a cost of $20,000. If the town goes through with executing the contract and purchasing all the lights, that would be part of the total payment that we have, which I think, Steve, is around $311,000.
Depending on which package you're going to get.
Dollars. And at that point, the town would actually purchase all of the existing lights and arms from Central Hudson, and we would be responsible for maintaining them. The board's been looking at this for the past few years. We started out looking at NIPA. Didn't really jump at it for two reasons. Number one, the cost was just over $500,000, around $525,000, $530,000. And they really didn't have what we felt was a strong maintenance program that we could participate in. So when Virginia looked into real term, we started meeting with them. They put their proposal together. It was a couple $100,000 less for the program, and they have a good maintenance program, a couple of options that the town board can have. So at this point, we are seriously considering looking at it. Steve, you want to just add, because you've had conversations with real term in terms of the agreement?
Well, yeah, there's an initial stage in which they prepare an inventory and a plan for replacement of the streetlight heads. And they'll present that to the town, at which time about $20,000 roughly of the fee payment will be due to them. At that point, the town board will take a look at the proposal, decide if they wish to go forward with the replacement of the streetlight heads, and if they do, Real Term will assist in preparing for public bid for both the purchase of new heads and for the installation work. The town will then enter into those contracts, and the streetlight heads will be replaced. Real Term will assist with every step of that process, and in fact, after the contract is over, if the town is so inclined, it can enter into a contract with them to oversee maintenance work on the new streetlight heads.
Okay, I read the resolution. Whereas the town of Cornwall has received a professional services agreement between the town of Cornwall and Real Term Energy US LP Real Term for the conversion of public street lighting to LED. Whereas the town wishes to enter into the agreement with the Real Term, now therefore be it resolved as follows. The town board does hereby agree to enter into the above agreement, copy of which is annexed here too and made part of this resolution, authorizes the supervisor to execute the same. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
So I just want to say something real quick. So I'm going to abstain on this. I think these are worthy environmental goals. We'll save money over time, but I just don't know if we can commit to $20,000 next year until we get in and get a chance to review, to review the actual 2022 budget. So I'm going to abstain on this, and then Steve, I just need a clarification on the cost, because I thought it was $49 times the number of fixtures, and I've only got 241 fixtures, so that's $11,809.
I thought there were 500.
Yeah, but I thought we did. Gotcha, so it's not just the ones that have already been replaced, it's the entire, okay, so
Right.
20,000, yeah.
It's almost 500. We're buying the LEDs from Central Hudson,
So-
and the remaining ones that are not LEDs will be new.
so
And
it's
actually,
20,000 for the server.
yeah,
Okay.
but actually this money, the 20,000 isn't even a budget amount, in the sense that if all comes out well, which we're feeling pretty good that this is going to be good for the town. that the project will be financed, either through real terms or the town will take out a bond to pay for the project.
Now, once the study's done, if we want to go forward with it, then we have to contract with them, and we have to go to the next step. This is just for the actual study.
Well, it's for the actual study, and if you decide to go forward with the purchase of the light heads and the contracts, Real Term is, under this contract, your contractor, your manager for that project, and they get a percentage of the markup on the contracts that you enter into with the independent contractors. So they'll get additional payment for assisting you with going forward with that. And you're bound to use them if you go forward with the purchase. If you decide you don't want to go forward with the purchase, then all bets are off, the contract's over.
Sure, okay, thanks.
Okay, roll call.
Turn them off. Ms. Bunt? Ms. Scott? Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, next is the workers' comp insurance renewal with Comp Alliance. We've been with Comp Alliance for a few years. They've offered us a 2-year proposal with a 3.15% increase from what we're currently paying. So the proposal for 2022 would be $287,571 plus New York State assessments of $87.88. And in 2023, it would be $287,571, the same premium, and the New York assessment, which obviously isn't determined at this time. So is there a motion to accept the proposal for workers' compensation from Comp Alliance?
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, next, the board has been discussing, obviously, the Main Street parking, and determined that we would want to consider having a study conducted of Main Street parking, both public parking and off-street parking. And we asked the attorney to draft a request for proposals, which he did. We went out over the past month soliciting proposals from various groups. As of this evening, I have just one proposal from Collier's Engineering and Design. The scope of work is outlined based on the RFP, and the proposal is for $47,700 to conduct the study, as outlined in the RFP. $49,700. I think the attorney indicated there are one or two other companies that might consider submitting. Steve, is that correct?
That's what I heard, but one wrote in and said that they needed more time, and, it's up to the board if you want to continue the RFP. And the other one said they were going to submit and just haven't submitted anything, so I don't know.
The reason why that came in so high, I mean, is that typical of studies?
Well, I haven't seen it yet. It depends on what they were going to include in it.
We just got it. The clerk got it
This afternoon.
this afternoon.
Yeah.
So we do have one company that is, I think that Steve, you mentioned, is going to contact me tomorrow, see if the board is going to extend the time.
Yep.
So at this point, I would certainly recommend that we extend it, let this company put their proposal in, and see where.
30 days?
Yeah, 30
Yeah.
days.
So we'll just, is there a motion to extend the RFP for 30 additional days? Your second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. The next item is purchase of generators for Firth Cliff. I read the resolution, whereas the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, makes federal funds available to municipalities for expenses related to the COVID pandemic, whereas one of the items for ARPA funds may be expended is to pay for water and wastewater infrastructure improvements, whereas the town of Cornwall has been informed by Camo Pollution Control, Inc., Camo, that it's necessary to install emergency standby generators for the Beatty Terrace and Firth Cliff wastewater treatment plants because the said facilities do not have any emergency standby generators, and the provision of such generators is required by New York State DEC. And whereas Camo has recommended that the attached proposal submitted by Gentech Limited for the installation of generators be approved, and therefore be resolved as follows. One, that the town board hereby approves of proposals for purchase and installation of generators by Gentech Limited. And 2, the town of Cornwall hereby appropriates and expends funds received from under ARPA to pay for the purchase of said generators. 3, the town supervisor hereby authorized to execute such documents as may be necessary to carry out the provisions thereof. The generators are under state contract. The Beatty Terrace pump station one is $48,000, and the Firth Cliff sewage treatment plant is $42,000, for a total of $90,000. So we have the proposals from Gentech. Is there a motion to approve the purchase?
Second.
Move, second, discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bo? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next is a resolution on premium pay for essential workers during COVID. The American Rescue Plan provided for municipality to consider some recognition for employees who did work during that 3-month period from mid-March to mid-June. I'll read the resolution. Whereas the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, makes federal funds available to municipalities for expenses related to COVID pandemic, and whereas one of the items for which ARPA funds may be expended is to pay for, I went to the next one. Same American Rescue Plan, funds that may be expended to payment of certain payroll and covered worker benefits, including additional compensation for essential workers who continue to work in their positions during the pandemic period of mid-March to mid-June 2020, and thereby were exposed to the greatest risk of contracting COVID-19, i.e. so-called premium pay. Whereas the town board wishes to recognize the sacrifice and efforts of the town of Cornwall employees who remained at work from mid-March to mid-June 2020 as permitted under ARPA, now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the town of Cornwall employees who continued working their positions during the pandemic period of mid-March to mid-June shall receive additional compensation as follows. A, all current town employees who worked more than 50% of their regular hours during mid-March to mid-June 2020 will receive a one-time payment of $1,000. And B, all other current town employees, including part-time employees who continued to work from mid-March to mid-June 2020, but who worked less than 50% of their regular hours will receive a one-time payment of $500. And 2, that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute such documents as may be necessary to carry out the provisions hereof. Is there a motion on the resolution? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Bo? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is, again, with ARPA. It's a reimbursement of COVID expenses. Whereas the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA makes federal funds available to municipalities for expenses related to the COVID pandemic. Whereas one of the items for which ARPA funds may be expended is to reimburse municipalities for COVID-related expenditures incurred on measures necessitated by the pandemic. And whereas the town of Cornwall has incurred $12,224.80 in COVID-related expenses eligible for reimbursement under ARPA, including, among others, the cost of safety glass installation, town hall meeting room, courtroom. Now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the town of Cornwall hereby approves and expends $12,224.80 of the funds received under ARPA to reimburse itself for aforesaid COVID-related expenditures incurred on measures necessitated by the pandemic. And 2, the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute such documents as may be necessary to carry out the provisions hereof. Is there a motion to approve? For second, discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bo? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Next is a resolution pertaining to the Terraceville Pipeline MS4 Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, the SWIP acceptance form. Whereas the town has received a copy of Village of Terraceville's MS4 Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan acceptance form, whereas the project covered under the above is a Phase 2 Transmission Main Contract 3A, whereas the acceptance form requires a certification be signed by the town supervisor. And therefore be it resolved as follows. The town board hereby determines that the identified project has been reviewed and meets the substantive requirements in the Speedy's general permit for stormwater discharges from municipal separate stormwater systems, MS4s. And be further resolved, town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign the attached certificate of statement. Is there a motion? For a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
So I just want to say something real quick. So it's my understanding that the town board does not have to authorize the supervisor to do this. He's the officer for the state. Since this is an administrative act, not a legislative act, I'm going to abstain on this. Since it's not the role of the council to authorize the supervisor to do this, he can do that on his own. So I'm abstaining.
Okay, well, the reason that I am requiring that the town board, all 5 board members sign on to this, because the misrepresentations were made with the last MS4 that was done pertaining to the golf course. So, bottom line is, the board can certainly vote to authorize me to sign it regardless of what the state says, who signs the agreement. This is for the town of Cornwall, town board to make a decision that we are signing the MS4 acceptance. So, roll call.
Ms. Bond?
Good.
Did I
It's
abstain?
just up to you.
Pardon?
It's just up to you. Your last vote.
I'm in favor of it, naturally. Motion is carried. I'll be happy to sign the acceptance. Thank you. Next is the lease on the Mountainville Post Office. The attorney has reviewed the lease. I think it's a 5-year lease. There was some increase that's coming to the town for the rent of it. I'll read the resolution. Whereas the town of Cornwall received a lease renewal agreement from the United States Postal Service between the Mountainville Post Office and the town of Cornwall. Whereas the town board wishes to once again enter into said lease agreement with the Mountainville Post Office, now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the town board hereby agrees to enter into the said lease renewal agreement, a copy of which is annexed here too. And 2, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the terms therein. Is there a motion on the resolution? Is there a second? Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, motion is carried. Next is a resolution on the agreement between the Humane Society of Walden and the town of Cornwall. When the town picks up dogs to the police department, or they go to the shelter out there. And it's worked out very well for the town. We don't have any dogs that we do pick up, but they take good care of them, and it's very reasonable for the cost. Whereas the town board has before the proposed agreement between the Humane Society of Walden, HSW, and the town of Cornwall for provision of dog control services, whereas the town board finds the terms and provisions of the proposed agreement to be acceptable. Now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, town board hereby approves the 2022 dog control agreement with HSW, a copy of which is attached. And 2, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign the 2022 dog control agreement and all documents necessary to implement the terms and provisions. Is there a motion? Need a second? Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, motion is carried. Next is the annual receivers undertaking. Resolution, whereas under section 25 of the town law, an undertaking for faithful performance is required from the town receiver of taxes and other town officials in regard to all monies or property coming into their hands. Whereas said undertaking is sufficient as long as it is for an amount at least equal to the amount of money received and held by the receiver of taxes and all other officers at any one time. Whereas the town heretofore procured and filed such a faithful performance undertaking on behalf of the receiver of taxes and said town officials. Whereas the county has requested a formal resolution of the town board approving the undertaking, therefore be resolved as follows. The town board hereby formally approves said faithful performance undertaking on behalf of the receiver of taxes and other town officials as required by section 25 of the New York State Town Law. Is there a motion? Moved. Is there a second? Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, the motion is carried. Next is a resolution from the Office for the Aging lease agreement for the county dining program at Munger Cottage. The attorney has reviewed the agreement. Nothing really of any significance. Whereas the County of Orange, on behalf of the Orange County Office for the Aging, has presented the 2022 lease agreement for the senior dining program for the elderly between the county and the town. Whereas in the best interest of the town to enter into the agreement with the county, therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the town board hereby agrees to enter into the annexed agreement between the County of Orange and the town for the 2022 senior dining program for the elderly. 2, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the agreement and forward the same to the County of Orange. Is there a motion on the resolution? Moved. Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, motion is carried. Memo from the highway superintendent. Highway department would like to purchase a new 2022 Chevy Tahoe for the superintendent and place the current truck into the highway department fleet. Tahoe is under the New York State contract, PC 68942, and is priced with New York State bid assistance. The price is $48,150 and is fully equipped with safety, lighting, road temperature thermometers, and spotlight. Attached is the quote. Is there a motion to approve the purchase?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Just a quick question on the truck. So is that, was that budgeted for this year, or is that coming out of next year?
It's coming out of the current surplus that we have.
So it's coming out of this, the current fiscal year that we're in?
It's coming out of the surplus that will remain at the end of this fiscal year.
Okay. You know what, I'm gonna abstain on this.
Okay. I vote aye. Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Next, on the Continental Bridge replacement, the engineer, in order to prepare the scope of work and do the engineering, needs a survey done, a proposal from Stephen Dravick, PLSPC, to perform the services, mapping, digital hard copy of the stream bed, adjacent areas indicated on the map provided by Hauser Netzel, topographic information, and all the necessary items that they need to do the initial scoping for the engineer. The fee is $2,500. Is your motion approved?
So moved.
Second.
Move second. Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item, Steve, you want to just mention on this one with the next one on the village water?
Sure. The town has received a request for an outside user agreement for water. The property owner, the property is 2527 Palomino Place. The property owner spoken with the village, not the village board, but the village engineer, Mike Trainer, who's in charge of their water, says that they don't see a problem with the provision of additional water to be the property owner's obligation to lay the pipes, of course. The town doesn't have a district there, so they're looking for an out-of-district user, outside user agreement with the town. The town will also have to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the village for the village to agree to supply the water. And then if the property owner doesn't pay the village for the water, the town can take the unpaid tax bill, water bill, and levy it at the end of the year as unpaid taxes. So we're going to need two agreements on this if it goes forward. With outside user agreements, the practice of the town is to establish an escrow amount for the property owner to pay for legal and engineering costs involved. I'd recommend in this case, since you're looking at not only the outside user agreement, but also a municipal agreement of $5,000 escrow, just to cover the costs. Obviously, any amount of that that's left over will be returned to the property owner.
Okay, I read the resolution, whereas the town of Cornwall has received a request from Monica Cialis on behalf of P. Mark Schwab for an outside user agreement for water service for certain real property owned by Mr. Schwab, located at 25/27 Palomino Place, in the town, tax map lots 5-5-7 and 5-5-8. Whereas water for properties in the town of Cornwall in the area of the subject property is provided by and through the village of Cornwall and Hudson under an intermunicipal agreement, whereas the town is willing to consider said request for an outside user agreement and an amended or new intermunicipal agreement with the village for provision of water service to said properties, therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, town board sets an escrow amount of $5,000 to be posted for processing of the request for an outside user agreement to pay for legal and engineering costs incurred on the application. And 2, upon posting of the escrow by the applicant, the town board refers the request to the town attorney and town engineering consultant for review and report. Is there a motion on the resolution?
Second.
Move second. Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yes. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. A request from the assessor to participate in an online class on Wednesday, December 15th. It's for it's continuing education on various topics for the assessor, including county state equalization, levy collection of taxes, laws concerning schools, villages, and so forth. It's a $100 charge. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Vaughn? Yes. Ms. Scott? Yep. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes, motion is carried. Town holiday decorating contest, we're a little behind schedule, but we're still gonna be in time. We put the word out that the town board is sponsoring the contest. We're gonna pick the three, either houses, commercial property, all included together that each board member finds to be one of the top three. The board's kicking in $75, which I don't know yet, to pay for the prizes that are gonna go to the winners. So I think the cutoff is on Saturday, the 17th. Hopefully we'll have at least 3 people submit their properties for it. Okay, next item is Friendly Visitor Program. Virginia's done a lot of work on this program, and so she'll give us an overview of what she is seeking approval for.
So I went back in my records and I was looking to see the first time that we actually looked into this program. This is a program that develops a partnership between local municipalities and Jewish Family Service to actually help our seniors to live in place, stay at home, provide services like grocery shopping, or if they need to get to medical appointments, or just checking in and seeing how they're doing. And if there's more need, this is where Jewish Family Services, which is under the umbrella of the Orange County Office of the Aging, could refer more services to that individual and their families. And as we know, there are even younger families that are taking care of their parents as well, and this would be a great assistance to them. And the first public forum we had was October of 2018 at the, I see head shaking in the back, with the Cornwall Public Library. And Brenda Goldfarb, the Director of Adult Services, did partner with me and Jewish Family Services to actually just present to the community. So the agreement, and I thank Steve Gaba, our attorney, you really worked on the language to ensure, thank you, to ensure that the town is satisfied, we are protected, because I do know a lot of the seniors that I volunteer with, they're concerned about safety, they're concerned about having people come into their home, and I really feel that Jewish Family Services is a program that's very professional. They're going to do a lot of the outreach, the training. I know there's even people in the audience that have done this training. And so we are going to enter into this agreement. And I think I have Heidi Johnson is in the back of the room, waiting back. And Jill Marie Rothschild, who is the executive director. They are here. They could not come last week. If the board has any questions, they are here to answer your questions.
Did you mention it's through the county?
It is through the county Office of the Aging, sorry, it's the master, aging, but yes, yes.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to add to Virginia's comments?
Just
Yes.
a general overview of understanding that even though we are entitled to Jewish Family Service, our doors are open to the entire community. We serve everyone. And yes, as Virginia stated, that it's actually the gateway to assist seniors with additional services that they might need. Case management, counseling, food insecurity. So the Friendly Visitor is really that gateway that gets us the access to the seniors to ensure that they can age in place, as Virginia said. So it's really an all-encompassing program, partnered with the Orange County Department of Aging, as well as Orange County Department of Mental Health as well, as we see some additional complexities happening with our seniors between mental health as well as some substance abuse. So it's an all collaboration throughout the county.
Thank you.
And I think with the pandemic, I think we've seen a lot of the need in the mental health services that our seniors, even their families, have needed, not being able to see their parents and help them. I did speak with 2 elected officials, Supervisor Sweeten and Councilman Neil Meyer in the town of Wallkill. They gave me a really great recommendation of this program. One of the things that they say is really about building the volunteers. Volunteers are really important in this. because without the volunteers, we can't expand who we're servicing in the community. I do believe right now we're at about 30 residents in the town of Cornwall. And I know Paula Blumenau, I want to give her some credit because she's been at the farmers market this summer, and she's been trying to recruit volunteers and also try to provide seniors with information. So I guess our first step, once we come into an agreement, is really to get a lot of information out to the public, and start, signing up for volunteer training, and also to start getting a record of seniors and their families that need this service. So I really thank you for doing this service. I really do think it's really important. Just real quick, I don't know if you want to check into this tomorrow, but Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney was actually on the news conference today talking about the Build Back Better program. And one of the initiatives, and I don't know if you have some current information, but I'm seeking to see if we can get a little bit more funding, maybe to expand the program if this goes better. So we'll be in contact on that. So I was excited on that. I didn't realize it was $300 for insulin for the seniors, and one of the things they're doing is lowering the prices of medicine and prescriptions for people. So definitely looking forward to that, because I just had a senior call me today and told me the difficulties they're having with almost $2,000 for their insulin. So definitely this is something that will help that senior. So thank you.
Okay. Move the resolution, whereas the Town of Cornwall has received a memorandum of agreement between the Jewish Family Services, JFS, Town of Cornwall Friendly Visitor Program, FVP, to outline the responsibilities of each organization. Whereas the town wishes to enter into the agreement with JFS, now therefore be resolved as follows. Town Board does hereby agree to enter into the above agreement, copy which is annexed here too and made part of this resolution, and authorize the supervisor to execute the same. Is there a motion on the resolution? A second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, FEMA Disaster Assistance Recovery Center. It took a lot of work on the part of a lot of people to finally get the federal government to agree to declare Orange County a disaster area from Hurricane Ida. The municipal damages were declared early on, but they were not declaring the private property damages. So Senator Skoufis and Congressman Maloney worked with the state initially. I think they came up with $2 million that would have been handled through the state. And miraculously, not long after that, the federal government declared Orange County to be eligible for the disaster aid. So I've been meeting with the FEMA officials to assess having a center, and I met with them last Monday. And so they contacted me and have agreed to have a recovery center at Munger Cottage, so that our residents and surrounding residents who have experienced damage can come in and file paperwork and meet with the FEMA representatives to discuss the assistance. So Munger Cottage will be open for FEMA this coming Saturday, Sunday, and Monday from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. So they should be able to handle all the residents that have experienced any losses. And I think, fortunately, a lot of people who I had contact with, who had emailed me regarding damage, kind of wrote it off. They weren't going to get any assistance. But through the efforts of the County Executive Newhouse and Senator Skoufis and Congressman Maloney, it took a lot of arm twisting, but finally the FEMA relented and declared our area. We had some residents that suffered some serious damage. So this is a great opportunity for them to at least get back some of the money for the damages that they incurred. So that'll be starting Saturday at 10 a.m. Next is effective January 1, 2022. The new signers on the Sterling bank accounts are Josh Wojciechowski, and then Dawn Tripota for the receiver of taxes, and Jen McCormick, who's present here tonight, for town clerk and the DEC accounts. So we'll just put this on a record, but let's just vote to authorize the changing of the signatures, so there's no question. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes. Motion is carried. Approval of towing companies, a memorandum from Chief Hazard. The following current tow companies have applied to continue on the town tow list for 2022. Quality Auto, Michael Big Jr., Heck Towing, Econo Towing, Express Towing. All of the aforementioned companies meet the criteria to remain on the tow list. There's a motion to approve the list.
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Is
Oh, go ahead.
Quality Auto and Michael Big Jr., they're the same company?
Two separate companies.
Two separate companies, okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next is approval. Association of Towns has a virtual training for newly elected town officials. It's January 6th. And just a motion to authorize newly elected officials to participate if they choose. So there's a $75 fee. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Abstain. Abstain? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next, we have an application for commercial audiovisual production permit. The applicant is Lizzie Zelenka. It's through Atlantic Pictures, and they're going to do filming on 218. No people, it's a scenery shoot. The latest information they have, they're going to shoot just for one day. Initially, it was going to be 12/16 or 12/17. Now they said they're looking at one day between 12/17 and 12/21. They'll notify the town clerk's office when they select the day based on the weather forecast. They'll have 2 SUVs and 1 van, and they don't need any police assistance, no closures. They're waiting for approval, I think, from the state.
They got it.
They got it?
This afternoon they said this confirmation.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the permit?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next, under personnel appointments, we have a few appointments to make. Board of Ethics, is there a motion on Board of Ethics appointment?
So moved.
Leslie
Second.
Bolton?
Hmm?
Leslie
Oh, I apologize.
Who we?
Leslie Bolton.
Bolton,
Mhm.
Board of Ethics. The motion to approve,
So moved.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Abstain. So I have no objections to to this appointment. I just don't think we should be doing this on the way out like this. We can, the new board can easily do this, when we get in on January 1st, at the reorg meeting or the work session. So
These are,
I'm
these are
abstaining.
vacancies, these are vacancies that do exist, Josh.
No, I know, I'm abstaining.
Okay, next
Mr.
is,
Randazzo?
yes, next is Zoning Board of Appeals. Is there a motion to appoint?
So moved.
Carrie Griffin?
Carrie.
Carrie Griffin?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Griffin?
Yeah, Griffin.
Roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
I'm abstaining.
I vote
Mr.
yes.
Randazzo?
Yes. Next, Planning Board vacancy. Is there a motion to appoint?
John Hines?
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski? Abstain?
Well, actually, so, yes, I'm abstaining. I don't have anything, it's just that, I don't like, it kind of, is gonna cause an appearance of a conflict of interest, so I'm gonna abstain on this. I just don't think this is a good appointment, but I'm abstaining, on this.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Board of Assessment Review. Is there a motion to appoint?
Serena Van Darker.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Abstain.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Next, we have a couple of vacancies on the Senior Advisory Committee. There are no term expiration limits or anything on that, and I have 2 names. Alice Hall and Mary Masseri. Is there a motion to appoint both of them to
So moved.
senior committee? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
What's the size of the senior committee? Is that just unlimited, or is there like an actual size?
Actually, there really is no limit. We've generally had 6 or 8. Depends, sometimes you get seniors that are interested, looking for something to do.
Okay,
And, you know, sometimes some seniors just can't make it for various reasons.
okay. So I'm going to abstain on that too.
Okay,
Mr. Randazzo?
yes, the motion is carried. Okay, committee reports, Councilwoman Bunt.
The only thing I have is the sewer, and they are in compliance, and also we did our tree lighting, which seems very successful.
Okay, Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yeah, so just in terms of what I've been doing the past month, I mean, obviously I've taken the time to meet with different department heads at town hall and just making sure that I'm acquainted, you know, with everything that I'm going to do starting in January. So I've been mostly focusing on that. The Economic Development Advisory Committee, they are going to be, actually this Wednesday, they're going to be having a meeting this Wednesday that's taking place. So that's all I have on EDAC. Thank you.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
With EDAC, remember the money that the town contributed with the chamber? Do we have any kind of, could we get, I know you're meeting on Wednesday, maybe talk to them?
Yes.
Maybe get a report?
Yeah, so actually, Steve, the new chair of EDAC, is going to be coming in January to give a report on the activities.
Okay, and then we'll get, remember with the investment in the social media, just like some information in terms of how much business was stimulated by this investment, you know, how it helped the businesses in our community. I'd appreciate that.
No, you can certainly get that.
Okay,
we'll give a
I just want to
report.
know what, you know, our investment, what happened, and, you know.
No, we were always planning on doing that in January, but we wanted to allow 6 months to run its course because we didn't actually start until June, so it's been about
Okay.
6 months.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Councilwoman Scott?
Okay, can I pass this, I'm sorry, Josh, I apologize. I didn't get this report from Kurt until probably like 5:30 today. So, one of the things, this is actually thank you. I noticed that this was actually the report that I gave in November. So when I meet with Kovac tomorrow, I'm going to ask for an updated report because this is the information I received last month. Last month, Kovac was able to respond to 87% of the calls. This month, when I spoke with Kurt Hahn, he reported to me that they were able to respond to only 80% of the calls this month. We're meeting tomorrow night at 7:30. Kurt also shared that Kovac is going to be unveiling a business plan for the year 2022. A lot of this is actually the efforts to try to staff full shifts. We really still need volunteers to drive our EMTs because without the drivers, they cannot go and pick up these calls. So again, that's something that I'm going to emphasize tomorrow. The other thing is their former past chief, he shared Chris Lease had passed away, and he just wanted me to share that with the public and thank him for his many years of his service. First Cliff Water District, there was nothing to report. Again, there was some concern about what's happening in terms of the pipeline that's coming up 32 and what direction it's going. And I promised I would, as soon as I would find out information, I'd share that with them. The Moodna Creek Intermunicipal Watershed, we're going to be meeting tomorrow at 10:30. They haven't had a quorum, so we have not met. And earlier this month, I know the CCAC, they did have their holiday party outdoors and they enjoyed a nice bonfire. And thank you to everyone who has worked very hard, all the committees, their volunteers, and to actually strengthen and do some good things for our community. So that's it.
Okay, Councilwoman Guest?
For the month of November, the Highway Department did street sweeping of the leaves from sides of roads townwide, vacuumed leaves from ditch line with Leaf Back, Beaver Dam, Mine Hill Road, Hasbrook Boulevard, Maple Road, and Shore Road. Put together the rest of the fleet for snow removal. All trucks are now ready for snow removal with the exception of one 2010 wing truck, which is at Arkell waiting for a computer chip. They assisted sanitation with double pickups from the Holiday and call-outs. They blacktopped Frost Lane, Smith Road, Quaker Avenue, Canterbury, Maple Road, and Rowe Avenue. Blacktop hit list, as they call it. They replaced the culvert pipe at the 81 Mine Hill Road. They repaired drainage issue at 11 Hidden Glen. Blacktopped an 1.5 inch overlay on Hidden Glen. They repaired blacktop and ditch line on Mine Hill Road and Oak Tree Drive, which was damaged from Hurricane Ida. They serviced and made ready all the snow removal equipment for the sidewalks. They repaired Belgian block curb on Windsor Lane, vacuumed out catch basins townwide, and the mechanics served any and all snow removal equipment in a handful of trucks. The building department for the month of November issued 23 permits, 17 certificates of compliance, 5 COs, 52 on-site inspections were performed, 3 complaints were investigated, 1 stop work order was issued, 2 fire inspections were performed, 3 signs were removed. They took in $2,939 in permit fees and $6,300 for municipal searches, 21 of them. New planning board projects, 3 were opened. No zoning board projects were opened last month. Ms. Walden.
Thank you, Jerry. I do want to mention the building department, both Gary and Diane have been our breadwinners over the past year or so. They've almost done it single-handedly because probably for the past 6 or 7 months we've been looking for a part-time building inspector to help out in the department and haven't so far been able to find one, but they've both done an incredible job with the limited resources that they've had. So I really want to thank them. The report from Chief Hazard, the police department, calls for service 671, miles driven 8,942, total miles for 2021 as of October 31, 2021, 87,652. Traffic appearance tickets issued 37, parking tickets 5, motor vehicle accidents 41, arrests made 4, 911 hang-up, misdial or open line 2, alarm residential and business 16, ambulance requests 14, animal complaints 18, burglaries 2, disabled vehicles 9, domestic incidents 6, parking complaints 4, suspicious vehicle or persons 14, house checks 1, and assisted other agencies 14. I just want to mention under a couple of things, just status on a couple of the projects that the town has underway. We've really had a busy year, especially coming out of COVID. We had contracts that had been awarded last year, and some of the work, like the Main Street work, planned for the past 3 years. But the Main Street improvements, the county repaved Main Street. I think they did a great job with it. With that improvement, they had a pedestrian safety grant that they were working with to improve the crosswalks, and they're going to be putting a push button on the Willow Avenue traffic light for pedestrians. The crosswalks, I think winter closed in quicker than everyone thought, or the project we got done a little later than everybody thought. But the bottom line is the crosswalks are going to be really upgraded in terms of, it's a thermoplastic with like red brick and the white lines that go with it. So they're probably not going to get those done until spring. I think what really convinces me more is when they put the signs up at the intersection of Willow and Main that said, if you're turning left, you have to yield to the pedestrian because the crosswalks aren't there. So everybody's got to use a little extra caution with that. The town also, with the same project, has 2 new crosswalks that we're installing, one in front of Fiddlesticks, and the other one will be down here by Town Hall. And then we're going to be doing the crosswalk in front of the Seaco's, again, with thermoplastic to really do upgraded crosswalks. So in the spring, they should be able to tie that project up. Sands Ring Park, the Highway Department did a good job over the past year, filling in and leveling it, and we awarded a contract to the contractor to install the pavers, which he's finishing up this week. We had ordered benches, and so the 3 benches are going to be installed. The landscaping is probably the only thing that will remain, and this is actually paid for by the Sands Ring Family Trust Fund. So it's going to be a nice benefit to the community. The Main Street beautification grant that we had gotten from Senator Skoufis, which was planned a few years ago, and again, COVID slowed things down, but the traffic circle has been completely redone and is a great improvement. The crosswalks that I just mentioned will be done in the spring, and we did get we have a few benches that we're going to get onto Main Street. And I think the good news is it was a $125,000 grant. I believe, and we're probably going to have to wait until we get the final numbers for the crosswalks and all, but there will be several $1,000s left over from that grant, because originally when the committee that was put together by Senator Skoufis, when we laid out the budget, we included having the town pay for the improvements at Willow Avenue, the crosswalk and the ADA ramps, as well as for Bridge Street. As it turned out, the county included both those intersections with their within the county project that they had. So I can't put a number on it, but it's going to be several $1,000s, and we've been in discussion with the dormitory authority who handles the grants for the senators and the assembly members, and so the town will be in a position to modify the grant next year once we get the better numbers on what it's going to cost, and then we can actually try to include the Bridge Street pedestrian walkway in that and use some of that money for the beautification of the walkway, and make it aesthetically pleasing and just a nice connector from the Main Street business area to the residential area on the other side. So we will have some money that will be available for that. The last thing I will mention is the senior citizen bus. We have the grant for that. I just signed paperwork for that. The bus will be ordered as soon as we get the final agreement on that, but I'm hoping sometime next year we'll have a new senior citizen bus to replace the one that really desperately needs to be replaced. The last project that I do want to mention is the town, after many years, was successful in acquiring the Triangle Park across from Chase Bank. And it's great that we acquired it, and we are going to put a park in there, the town is, but we are going to have to wait until 2024, I'm sorry to say, because the county, they're going to replace the Main Street Bridge by the Canterbury Brook restaurant, which is going to be a major project. That's supposed to start in 2023, probably won't be done until 2024, and the Triangle Park is going to serve as a staging area for that project, as well as access to the stream. So the plans for the park and the Triangle are put on hold for the next couple of years, but eventually, if the board keeps it on its radar, it will turn out to be a great park, another place, just like the Sands Ring Park, that will be available for our residents and people who come to visit the town to go and sit and just relax in the Main Street area. So they're the projects that we've been working on, and I think I can tell you over the past couple of years, I've never had so many projects underway at the same time at all. So when Linda was here as my administrative assistant, keeping track of them and working with her, and with Denise, who's been there the past 2 years, it's a lot of paperwork flowing and keeping Albany satisfied of what we're doing, what progress is being made, and getting reimbursement and all. So I'll entertain a motion for warrant number 12. For second discussion, roll call.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Untitled?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment? Carla?
Thank you so much. I have a series of comments. My first is regarding the real-term energy contract. I was wondering if they had provided you with the maintenance cost per light.
Yes, they have a program.
Did they mention the cost?
Yeah, it's in the agreement. It's very reasonable.
I'm asking to know what the cost is,
Yeah.
because my concern is that, now, I have no qualms whatsoever with real term in my professional capacity. I recommend both real term and NIPA to all communities, and I have done so to the town in the past. But I just wanted to make sure that the town is comparing apples and apples in terms of total cost, and incorporating the maintenance. If
Well,
the town were to
actually,
go through the maintenance.
between NIPA and real term, we're already $200,000 ahead. by-
No, I understand that, but
Well,
that's
but that's-
without,
that-
that's
but-
without the maintenance.
But that's real money. And again, do you have the numbers there, Steve?
Well, this contract takes you through the installation. If you want maintenance, you gotta enter into a separate contract with them. Whether they've given us the numbers on the maintenance.
We do.
Again, it's not gonna be in this agreement, is my point. I don't have it in front
But
of
we
me.
have the numbers, Carla, if you want to, send me,
So-
just shoot me an email or something, I'll give you.
Okay, I've asked for the
We have
numbers
that.
before, and again, I'm just asking these questions in the interest of
Yeah.
ensuring that the town is getting the best deal possible. Because right now, comparing 311 against 500 for NIPA, the NIPA cost includes maintenance. I believe it was quoted at $19 per street light for maintenance. And without knowing what it is for real term, it's difficult to understand what the true savings
Well,
are.
the maintenance cost is an ongoing cost, and I think it's based on a monthly charge and all, but. we
Okay,
can-
I'll send you an email about that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
send me an email.
Okay, the second thing is, thank you for confirming that the appointments that were sent in for the CAC would be considered or put on the January agenda. That includes myself, Francie Schuster, I believe Kate Krinsky has also submitted her request for reappointment, and Aaron Siliquini. So we look forward to hearing about the board's decision in January on that. I understand that with this packed agenda in December and in January, the work session and the town board meeting, there wasn't enough time to present an overall report on the CAC's work over the past few years. But I wanted to take a moment to thank the supervisor and the current board members for your leadership. Under your leadership, the CAC has become a known presence in the region, at the regional level and also at the state level. In particular for our ever-growing cleanups, we had 94 folks help out this year. And for our standout planning documents, the natural resources inventory, the scenic resources inventory, and the natural heritage plan. And although we may not always be in agreement, the board may not always be in agreement with the recommendations that the CAC makes, our approach to the way in which we draft the recommendations to the board has become a model, in particular to the Hudson River Estuary Program. They have thanked us for sharing our advisory memos that we submitted to the board on the tree ordinances and on the planning document adoption. These memos are actually now influencing the Hudson River Estuary Program's approaches and policies. So I want to thank the supervisor and the board for their efforts on this, because without our ability to have this dialogue with the board, we would not have that kind of influence at the state and regional level. And then last, we have, at the last board meeting, we developed a listing of where the printed copies of the natural resources inventory would be disseminated to. I'm going to draft a memo to the board, and it includes locations in the town and in the village. I'll be sharing that memo with Mayor Gagliano. I've informed him that I would be doing so, and I'll await the board's approval on the dissemination. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Other comment? Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a clarification. So last week during the work session, when the engineer was here, I don't know if my friends thought this, but I thought that, we would have a opportunity to ask him questions, and he didn't. When he left, and at the end of the meeting last week, yes, some people said they would try to send some questions to you. However, we also all asked for him to appear tonight so that we could ask him the questions during the actual board meeting. So just wanted to make a clarification of that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think any questions that come in, I will certainly forward to the engineer, and I think the board can certainly invite him to come to the work session beginning of January. And so he'll have gotten the questions from the residents, he'll have had an opportunity to see the results of the study that was done, and it can turn into a productive opportunity for everyone.
Thank you.
Yes?
I have a question. I'm a little confused about the personal appointments. I'd just like to hear an explanation about the justification of an outgoing supervisor and board making appointments essentially for an incoming supervisor and board. I'd love to hear an articulated explanation for why you felt that was important to do 3 weeks.
Because this board, as we sit, has an opportunity to fill vacancies that exist. And we all did the interviews, we all met the applicants, and the decision was made that those appointments would be made.
Whose decision was that?
Pardon?
Whose decision was that?
The board's decision by the vote this evening.
I just wonder, I'm curious as to, it's 3 weeks before the new board comes in, the new supervisor comes in. I'm just curious why the rush. I just would like to hear more articulated answers to why this couldn't wait for 3 weeks so that the new supervisor and the new board could to make these appointments themselves, considering that they will be the ones serving with these personnel appointments. Don't you think that would be an important?
Yeah, well, I think,
for
first
them?
of all, I'm pretty comfortable with the people that we appointed, the residents involved in the community, certainly a lot of interest in all. I think every one of them will be an asset to the community and the positions that they're appointed to, and the board exercises prerogative to make the appointments of the positions that existed.
That's interesting. I mean,
Hey.
that's wonderful that you're comfortable with them, but you won't be town supervisor.
It doesn't matter.
It probably matters to the next
No,
town
it
supervisor.
doesn't matter. I think people are going to perform well for our community, and I think that's the bottom line. That's the kind of people we look for. And I think, whether it's a 4-1 vote or whatever, the majority of the board supported making these appointments.
Okay. I mean,
Okay.
it doesn't
Anything
look great
else?
optically.
Thank you.
Ted Warren, Hasbrook Avenue. I've got a question in particular about the appointment of Mr. Hines to the planning board. I know there were a number of individuals who put their names forward to be appointed to that board who had significant planning or zoning or construction or real estate experience. And I was wondering if anyone on the board could provide a little more detail on the credentials for Mr. Hines, because here's my concern. My concern is that folks who are not as familiar with local government as folks like us who show up to meetings and that sort of thing, might look at that appointment, and I mean, I know that's not the case, but they might look at that appointment and they might see it as a case of, nepotism, cronyism, given the fact that Mr. Hines's father is the Orange County legislator who represents Cornwall.
No, he's not.
No.
I'm sorry, uncle. His father is the principal of the engineering firm who the town of Cornwall contracts with, and his mother works in the building department's office. So my concern is that that would be seen as nepotism at the very least, or cronyism, and sort of turn off people in the town. So I'm wondering if someone might be able to explain a little bit more about his credentials for that.
Well, I think, first of all, the nepotism, I don't think any of us that voted for the appointment, nepotism would apply, number one. Number two, we had narrowed it down early this year to 2 applicants for the board to consider. And I think as far as the ethics issue, we live in a small town. If there's a situation that comes up, then an individual serves in a position of making decisions and all, they can recuse themselves from making a decision.
We didn't have a problem with husband and wife being on one committee.
But so Orange County and Cornwall is facing a lot of development pressure and that sort of thing. And so on something like a planning board, which is very important to the future of the town, the way things go, how we decide to move forward in terms of development, preservation, whatever. The fact that we've appointed somebody who has absolutely, to my knowledge, I'm hoping maybe someone can elaborate on this, to my knowledge has no practical planning, zoning, real estate, construction, any kind of experience to bring to that important committee.
I felt he was the best candidate. He didn't have a preconceived notion of what he thought should happen. I think on the planning board, you have to just look at the zoning rules. I don't think you can think what you want to be in Cornwall. You have to have an open mind, and he seemed to have that.
He's a very, very intelligent individual. He's young,
I don't doubt
and
that.
so I feel that he can step aside from any of his family and act and think and vote on his own. So in my opinion, he was the best candidate, so.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Jeremy Schlegel, 123 Mailer, talked about the speeding issue. Apologize for not getting the comments compiled. It was a long document, so we'll get those to you and look forward to further work in January on what the next steps are. Just a couple of major weaknesses that I noticed in the study. The first was that he did not use that US Limits website, which is an approved singular reasoning for looking into lowering speeds. If you recall, when we put our data into that site, it actually came up with a 20 mile per hour recommendation for Mailer Avenue, which is obviously way low. But 25 is not outside of the realm of possibility. So I would ask that before as we compile our comments this week, if you can provide that initial feedback to him, to go to that site and see, in his professional opinion, maybe why that wasn't used or if there's another reason. That whole site, just for some background, was put in place because the 85th percentile was going out of style. Right? They determined that wasn't the only way to determine the proper speed on the road. So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration put that site together for small towns like ours to reference and make these cases to the state and the Department of Transportation. Also in the report, we're missing some of those major aspects of the road that we asked to be considered, like the amount of driveways, setbacks from the road. In fact, the faster area of Mailer Avenue is the north end, and that's right where the houses get very close to the road, which is where we see some of those safety issues. So in the end, we really want to make sure that we have the basic information that you all would need to make a recommendation to the Orange County Department of Transportation, and that minimum data has not been provided in the study that was done. So we just want to make sure that we're not wasting our money.
Just lay that out in as much detail as you can, and that'll give the engineer an opportunity to review it before he comes here next month.
Can you just make sure that he's available for the reorg meeting? Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't say who I was before. Felicia Lecce, 73 Mailer Avenue. Mostly everybody knows me. But the other thing I wanted to add is the fact that I forgot. Thank you, Jeremy, for saying that, because the thing that I read also, because we read it quickly this afternoon, is the fact of there's no stipulation for vehicles not parking on the road. And if you know from where my home is down towards Academy, there's always at least somebody next to me who is parking halfway on their grass and on the road. And I'm concerned about with the white lines. I think the white lines and the double yellow, I think that's a great idea. However, Mailer Avenue, since they finally put curbs in that we paid taxes on for years, so I don't know. But when they finally put the curbs in, if you look at that, and I was looking at it this evening before coming here, you take 2 feet from either side and say it's 10-foot lanes and the double yellow. I can't tell you how many cars I counted while I was outside who, no matter which way they're going, they drive in the middle of the road. And so I'm concerned that some of that is going to create another issue. So I think we need to really look at where the lines may be placed that's reasonable. And I know the town doesn't have any ordinance for, no parking on the street. I think the village has some, but I don't think the town does. And I don't know if that's a reasonable request, but maybe that's something that can actually be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Richard, Mike Nielsen, 17 Halverson Road. On the same study, we're talking about the speed study. We all need to get together and talk before we get here because we're all talking about the same points. The first, I read the whole study here, all 139 pages of it. Okay, so the last 100 and some odd pages, 130 pages you can toss out because that's only fluff. His whole study is in the first 6 pages of this. I read contracts most of the day. So he has some good things in here, as he's stating, but there are things that he left out. The usage of the road was left off, the makeup of the road. The road, particularly down at this side facing Nema down there, when you come up, it's a gradual grade to the first plateau, and you cannot see any vehicles until you get halfway, 3/4 of the way up that little hill. And by that time, they're in the middle of the road, just like Felicity is stating. It's here, the start of the study is here, but it's not all encompassing, because all he took was this speed study. He didn't take up the makeup of the road, the usage of the road, the kids walking on the sidewalk, the fact that there's only one curb and one sidewalk. He said in this study that the curb and the sidewalk were 5 feet wide. I measured 4 foot 6 inches wide is the average going up the road. It's here, it's mostly here, and then if you keep reading through it and you get to Appendix F, and I hope you guys read through this. Appendix F is a list of all the municipalities who have used this and lowered the speed limit. So it's not impossible to do. It's here, and in the paperwork we gave you over the past couple of sessions. I'd really like to know where we're going to go with this. I know we're not to that point yet, but we'll get together, we'll map out something to you in writing, and at that session we're going to need to know what your intents are. I'd like to send this report forward to the DOT and get their yay or nay on it. And if they deny it, then what are we going to do to lower the speed limit? We've got, in this particular report, he's given us 4 options. Just need a date and time when they're going to be implemented as we go along with this, because we're going to be watching out to make sure that the cars slow down. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anyone else? Yes.
Cornwall. I just want to follow up on the work session. You said you were going to bring the fund balance numbers.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that there is more than $1 million in surplus that's left at the end of this year, after the appropriation for next year. Plus, obviously, the ARPA money's coming in that the town can work with.
Great, thank you.
Okay?
We should also add that the fund balances were brought down, right, I think it's like 10 and 12% for each of the 4 major funds, which is just at the fund balance policy that the town has. We're going to revisit that next year, because we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yep, Josh has the numbers. Okay, anyone else? Okay, yes.
What was the fund balance at the end of last year?
I don't recall that offhand. If you can find out, I can get you the exact number.
And is there, with the fund balance that's going to be left over, you say it's going to be about $1 million?
Yeah.
So are there any regulations around if that money can be spent, or do you have to maintain that money in reserve? Or are there rules around how that money can be used next year?
Well, the town's fund balance policy says that we can't, because they were brought down, well, so not that there can't, but it's not recommended that you go below, you know, in case like an emergency happens. Like, I think the highway department is only gonna be 200,000 left in there, and if any piece of equipment should happen to break in the highway department, like a plow truck, you know, we're either gonna have to borrow or drain that fund balance.
Well, actually, the trucks aren't out of the highway department. They are purchased out of the highway department. It's another part of the budget.
So I think what I'm trying to get to here is, so even if we have the money, if there, to Josh's point, if there is an issue next year,
You can use it.
you can use it.
Yeah, if there's an emergency, something comes up, you can use it as part of having the surplus.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Like a counselor from Main Street. As an ADA advocate, I just wanted to say how pleased I am to see the crosswalks going in with the tactile strips, and to hear that we're going to continue to move towards compliance with the ADA. So, thank you.
It's going to be a great improvement for Main Street. It really is. In terms of we talk about walkability, it's going to provide a safe environment for anyone visiting Main Street to really be able to get around. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn. Your second, roll call.
Ms. Bunk? Yes. Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yeah.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the holidays.